to be able to step back and to allow form to take place is creating immediately a bigger horizon in which we become aware that no form is absolute. That all forms are relative in the moment, here, now. And in my life, this plays out in a much bigger reality I feel such a gratitude for. To be able to be in fear and love at the same time. To be able to see how my mind is working and reactive on emotions, building stories, and to stay in connection at the same time and to just look through all the illusions which are built in a moment. It's relative. And it gives such a knowledge and insight of my own psychology, but then this insight of your own psychology, it seems that all our psychology looks like each other. And it's not only that you're able to kind of look through your own personality, your own struggles, they all become kind of transient. It's a process. But you're also able to look through the struggles and psychology of the ones around you. Also, that becomes transient. Into the depth and the beauty which is always there. At the same time, it kind of makes you very, very aware of your own and conscious of your own building blocks. Of your own forms. And that's so incredibly worthwhile because it keeps you humane. We are all the same. All evolving, all struggling. And it made me also very awake in something I already knew. Made me very awake in something I already knew, but kind of deeper and deeper levels. There is no escape from human life. We can pretend, but there is no escape. It is what it is. And as Georgi would say, it's really okay. So moving into the subject of the day, I give the word to Georgi.
So we did two meditations, one at the beginning on nothing, no one, nothing, nowhere. And And yesterday we did someone, something, sorry, everyone, better, everything, everywhere. And we can get a lot of clarity on this polarity of the great nothing and the great something with a quote which is originally from Nisargadatta, who we feel is one of the greatest teachers of our time. He died physically, but he's less well known because the message of that you are infinitely composed of love, for example, is much more sellable in a way. The message from his book, I Am That, there's a lot of resistance to it, to a space even behind love, even behind peace. So what he said at a certain stage is, love says I am everything. Wisdom says I am nothing. Between these two, my life flows. In saying this, he is speaking from a position which is neither everything nor nothing, which is not even life. He's seeing his life, he's perceiving life flowing between the something and the nothing. And, you know, a lot of people out there talk about, is there life after death, is there not? The kind of common scientific view is, you know, there is no proof for life after death. It's an absolute certainty there is life after death. It's just not an individual life. It's not, maybe not your private individual life, but life seems to be beyond form. It's a layer of form. Do I individually exist in form after I die is a different question. How do I exist in form after I die? That life continues irrespective of me? That babies are born, that people die? This is, I don't know how anyone could argue with that. It's just not private. But is there a space even behind life? Yes. A space from which we can even perceive life? Yes. Even there's a space behind seeing anything, perception. This is that. The first layer of form, in a way, is the perception emerging, or love and peace perceiving. And this is where sleep is very, very important, because it's really showing us rhythmically how much we exist beyond perception. So when we begin to look at the layers of form and the movement into form, it's very important to maintain the and. It's not all we're in form, all we are consciousness, all we are not. It's and we're here, beyond consciousness or beyond awareness, and there is consciousness and awareness. Also, we are here beyond peace and love, and there is peace and love. And we are here physically. At the same time, that the physical form is not the end of us. It's not what we are as an end point. It's not absolute. It's changing all the time. It's transforming all the time. So if we move to the next layer of form, in terms of experience, we begin to get an impression of the experience of life, pure life. And the more we can at the same time be that which is behind life itself, the more life itself is free to be perceived in its beauty, in its wonder. So this aspect of who we are at the core, this thatness, this is what allows. It allows it all to be in form. Even it's allowing perception itself. It's allowing consciousness. So there's three movements on the three levels which are really worthwhile. As bridges. And it sounds like it's broken bridges, but actually they are bridges because the movement is of allowance. So on the level of consciousness, it's very much let it go. Let it go is not a rejection, it's let it go, let the story go, let the thought go. Don't hold on to it, let it happen. Let it move up or out, or doesn't mean it has to be expressed even. But the ability to let go, this is really an unhooking. Not a rejection, it's an unhooking, a kind of disinvestment. We're repeating a little bit, but on the level of awareness, of whatever's occurring in feeling, it's let it be. Through pure being, we are really able to let be.
Can you say that fast?
Through our own pure being here, in the moment we're able to let be. Again, it's not a rejection, it's not, oh, let it be. It's really, let it be like you let a child be in play. Or you let a cat find its own direction. And again, that which allows the letting is some position or perspective which is behind any agenda. It's It's that which is so strong, so infinitely and eternally strong, that it can really let our stuff be and stably support it while it transforms or not, or cooks.
Plays out.
Plays its music or its discord. And on the level of the existential level, emptiness, it's very much be for real. Be for real. Really, what is there now? What's really here? Breathing. Right now, the body. The deeper layers of attitude, to really allow ourselves to be for real, to go for that. So this is connected to, very much to the next layer of form, which is where we come to orgasms.
Can we really write down that the next layer of form is orgasm?
Yes.
It's all a kind of function of time-space, you know. But the orgasm gives both the male and the female gives a kind of very easy insight into the circulation of life through form. And we'll talk about the male and the female, but we have the potential for both within ourselves, the full circulation. You know, sexuality is socially and psychologically very much kind of boxed in and cordoned off and put into a safe zone where it's only there where you're actually doing something with somebody or with yourself. It's almost put on into the emptiness with a lead to pull back for use here and there, but it's quite, in a way, vulgarized in that, through control and repression. When we talk about orgasms, we could just as well talk about sneezing. It's the same movement. Or dying, but we're not there yet. So these three layers of form are expressing or experienced, the experience of the meeting with form is expressing in the three layers. So the first is this passion, which we spoke about. Now, passion itself is born really from that. It's really in a certain way that space before an orgasm when there's a real letting go, being for real. Letting go, letting be, being for real. There's a big unhooking and nothing is happening, nothing is going to happen. There's this kind of this permutation more deeply into matter, very much for real. Like even the release of all expectation. There is this empty space allowed, out of which something starts to rise as a passion. From a source beyond the individual. Moving through even the physical matter. Opening it. Almost shocking it with life. Surrendering it, you could say. This rises up the central column to the level of awareness. And the experience here, and it can be very, very fast, or it can really be slowed down. And the way it slows down is through the open connection with that, the letting be, the not hooking into it, not controlling it. Letting it be, letting it be, letting it be. So this arises and leaves the aftermath of experience as ecstasy. As if the restrictions or limitations or blockages on the heart are really being blown out. For that moment, for those moments. And if we try and hold it, it decreases. If we can stay as that, it multiplies. Ecstasy, in a way, is a feeling of unconditional happiness in form. Celebration of form, but very unconditional. Again, from beyond ourselves. This rises to the layer of consciousness. And here, the experience is very much of bliss. Which is not the same as ecstasy. Bliss is almost like an enlivening or awakening of every cell, every physical cell, or the edges of forms. The membranes of form. Again, if we get hooked, or if we think like, that's enough now, quieten down, or whatever, we get hooked, letting go allows it to expand as it, and refine. And it continues up through the whole circulation, through the crown, up to the ID, and often comes down for another cycle. Like a cycle of purification of passion, bliss and ecstasy in experience, but really pure life. And it's not, I give it in a very kind of story tale kind of way, but of course it's all happening in a way also at once, because the layers also go this way, outwards. Passion, ecstasy, bliss. And throughout these days when I'm describing stuff, you might have noticed, often I'm moving in these layers like this, from the down up. And then Bart adds his perspective, and suddenly it's from the up down. Wherever there's a movement up, there's a movement down. It's happening also. Both are totally in balance with each other. They're equal at core. What's really, really, really important to take in is that also these aspects, bliss, ecstasy, passion, like love and peace and unity, are coexisting, interbeing with the rest, with the that, with each other. Which means that totally unconditionally to our being in pain physically, we can at the same time experience bliss. Meaning if we have a physical pain in the body, often our perception is pulled into the pain and we sacrifice the blissful whole of being physically here. And in terms of supporting ourselves and supporting others, the allowance of the coexistence is really, really, really worthwhile. Meaning to move even briefly between bliss, which we can feel in any moment, just the air on the face, the feet on the ground, and an area of pain, and to really experience how this pain feels, and back again to an experience of bliss, and back again to pain, is extremely healing. This is really, really worthwhile. Partly because pain itself is formed by a membrane of bliss. And we're talking about certain kinds of pain, and intuitively we'll know, but it excites transformation. It awakens something to move. We're less hooked because there's bliss and pain, both, and we are neither. The same is with ecstasy, or to say it more gently, happiness. There is no need to make an either-or situation between happiness and sadness. Happiness and the suffering of the heart. If I remember some of the saddest moments of my life, and I'm really, really honest, the happiness was there as well. Very deep happiness. So, especially when someone near us is suffering a lot, it's not necessary to cut off the connection with happiness for their sake. It's not that helpful. With our own happiness, oh, they're suffering, so I must suffer too with them. This is a kind of false empathy. And it's one of those bridges backwards, which at first is hard to find exactly the way, when you're really suffering and you're really bummed out, to look, am I also happy in this? Am I smiling somewhere deep down? to find the way. And to, in a way, clear the way so it's open. So we get used to it, we get trained. And the experience of ecstasy is very much connected with when that happiness, that depth of happiness reconnects with the block, and the block, or the grief or the pain becomes relative. It starts to move. There's a liberation. It's really okay. There's really a happiness. I don't have to carry this. It's not that bad. Because our emotional or feeling suffering tends to absorb us and to make our world this small. So the boundaries of our world is this terrible suffering. And we do this partly out of loyalty. Really loyalty to where this suffering is connected to the other. If I release this suffering, then I'm really letting the other one go. I'm not there anymore. So we hold on to certain aspects of suffering with a really good intention of loyalty. But it's never lost. The connection to the other. And the other isn't the suffering either. And when these clouds become more clear, ecstasy is like the sun starts to shine through again. There's this feeling of release of the heart. Almost like I'm allowed to be happy. Anyway. And the passion area is very much bringing or connected with a fulfillment, purpose. This sense of being in the right place at the right time and no longer caring if you die tomorrow or later. This sense of real fulfillment. It's got a lot of peace in it, but it's really something more. It's really full. And quite unconditional satisfaction. But it's hard to put words to it. It's very much connected with the fulfillment of purpose. Which makes us come back for more service. But not service in an inferior way or in an obligatory way, really. What we're here for. What makes sense without any need for logic or words. It makes sense. Literally, it makes sense. So these are areas for the toolbox, which we want to be in the toolbox, to be channeled through us towards the healing of our own selves or the healing of others. It makes no difference. And there really is a similarity to sneezing.
To what?
Sneezing. You feel for a while with a sneeze, nothing's going to happen. It's just, I've got to sneeze and it's not coming. And then something catches a wave, it begins to rise up. Or some people. Or each an individual expression. It's really the same movement, and there's very much that is there, all the way through, that in the spaces. We perceive ourselves sneezing, or being sneezed, this movement. It's very fast, but we are very clearly behind it. Allowing it. Allowing it from a position that it's not even a choice. It just allows, is allowed.
So, when you move into the whole area of orgasm, and I guess I have to say something about male orgasm. And it's like you take, when you only talk about orgasm, a very little bit out of a much bigger story, basically. The beautiful thing about sneezing and orgasm is, and other things, is that our moments, they're so physical, so incredibly physical experiences, so close to the physical. Starting point is physical. That they become very clear, recognizable. Basically, to be able to sneeze, we have to let go. To be able to sneeze, we have to surrender to the physical, to just sneeze itself. And the moment we let the physical sneeze itself, something wakens up. We are perceiving this. And a good sneeze starts right in the pelvic. It's like a movement up. We have this very deep breathing in, and then it's almost a birth of a release. It is quite a release. And maybe sneezing in the movement up, when you look to it, looks more to the female orgasm. Doesn't look so much like the male orgasm, which is quite a different movement in itself. So in the build-up for the male orgasm, there is much more a movement downwards into the pelvic. An allowing of the let go of the mind, although sometimes the mind is interfering and trying to hold control. But if the mind too much tries to hold control, there is a moment of loss of control. There's anyhow an orgasm, but it's nothing. Or if the mind, if we are not able to let go of the mind, we cannot come to an orgasm. So to let go of the mind means that the heart starts to open more, and there's more a flow, moving into togetherness. And it's really that the heart, in the build up to an orgasm, really becomes feminine in a way, in a male. It's really letting the partner in. Again, this is also a whole area of conflict. We can not let the partner in. And then the moment we not let the partner in, we flip back into the mind and it becomes a controlled situation. There is power and control, and often aggression comes forward. If we can surrender the heart, let it be. There's a much more deepening of the whole experience. Each level, again, we can interfere. Then there is this movement into the pelvic, into a very deep release, which is called the orgasm, but it's only part of the orgasm. A very deep release into the other, into unity through emptiness. It's blind, it's almost like dying. It's like leaving the body into the other. Letting go of the I, of the person, of the being, into the other. And the other is not the other anymore. The other is part of you. There is unity. And basically, this can be very short and almost not perceived. It can be just like blowing your nose. But still, even if it's blowing your nose, another movement takes place by itself. It's the second circulation. If you more deeply perceive it, you feel a whole movement of unity and a kind of movement downwards again, at the same time as there is a movement upwards. But the movement upwards is not kind of bringing you a lot. It's the movement downwards which is bringing the most. And this movement downwards is through total kind of a feeling of bliss in the mind, stillness, silence, peacefulness, different possibilities, this deep, deep peace which comes over men after they have an orgasm. They fall asleep. It's such a bliss. But it's not a private bliss. It's really also a bliss in togetherness, especially when it sinks more deeply to the heart, where there is this kind of deep love coming forward. Then the heart starts to express outwards this deep love for the other, who is not the other anymore, who is absolutely part of the unity. This deep appreciation. And then moving down to the basis, where there is a realization, again, of what was lost. Maybe for a moment, maybe for a few moments, maybe for an hour. It depends in how much you're able to let go. But the rebuilding of the person, again, the I. The realizing of the I. And this is also disturbing, because in the realizing of the I, what sometimes happens is a very quick movement into the I again. And so there's a split. Back into the I, let's bake some eggs and bacon. He's gone. Either he falls asleep or he starts to bake eggs. He's gone. At least that's my feeling from the other side. There's this movement back into
hit and run.
Hit and run. But the hit and run can be very quick, but can be slower, but it's also the need kind of to move back into the own individuality in a new movement where the other can be there as well, but it's another layer. It's another layer of meeting again, being together. And I think that part of the deep release and the movement in orgasm, I think both male and female orgasm, beyond the person, beyond the I, which is really, really beautiful when you look at it. And the integration of the experience in the I is such a beautiful, because it's so physical, spiritual at the same time, but born from the physical, beautiful example for any feeling, any experience, any emotion, any form which takes place, if we allow it to circulate completely. And then it can circulate in two ways. It can kind of move up and move back like this, or it can move down from the mind down and circulate like this. It can incarnate any idea, any thought can kind of move from a thought, from an idea, into the depth of experiencing, into emptiness, where we basically are able to see its form, to let it go, to separate from the experience, to manifest the experience, to manifest it in the world, or just release it. Up, back, that's one movement. It starts in the head, it starts in the consciousness. Another movement is that a form comes forward from the depth inside you. And often forms coming forward from the depth inside you is the start of an experience, of an emotion, or a feeling. And then there is this movement upwards, where the emotion, the instinct, the physical need, which is coming forward, move through a whole movement of quickening up, transformation. Bringing an opening of the heart, a whole movement in interbeing. Forgiveness is one of the bridges into interbeing. The moment we're able to forgive, we are able to let it be. Forgiving is not forgetting, but we're able to let it be. We are anger, we're able to forgive, we're able to let the other person be. And to let it be in ourselves. And it immediately brings an opening up of the mind which was kind of often in a loop with our anger. And immediately, in letting it be, what is happening in the mind is this peacefulness which comes forward. This opening up, this peacefulness on the background of the mind. And again, then there is a movement like this downwards again, to start a new circle. It's so much the same movement. There is such a beautiful beauty in just allowing whatever is coming forward. Allowing life to take its own circulation. And the example of orgasms is helpful because we know it. We know this. We understand this. We know, okay, this is how it's working. At least most of us know it. Sneezing we all know. That's maybe a better example. The moment of surrender to that what is. Be for real. It starts in the passion. In sneezing, a very physical passion. That what is. Be for real. So passion is a very, very deep motor inside ourselves. And where do we find passion? What is the pit of passion? Where is passion coming from? When we are passionate, is it coming from the mind? It can express itself through the mind, but is the passion, the feeling of passion coming from the mind? Can we think passion? I don't think so. Is it coming from the heart? Can we feel, create passion in the heart? Can feel, experience passion in the heart. Compassion is a form of passion. It's active. But really, if you go to the pit of passion, it really comes from the basis of yourself. It's born in the coccyx, below the coccyx even. It's very, very, very much alive. It's a very strong motivator. It's a very strong power, passion. And when you look to the depth of it, it's so much loaded with passion to do something good. It doesn't mean that when we have a passion to do something good, to make a change, that what we are doing is good. There is a lot of very passionate leaders in our past who really, because of the strength of their passion, were very attractive to people. They were kind of drawn into the same passion. It's inspiring when there is a lot of passion. It doesn't mean that, what you bring forward is always for the best of everybody. We can be passionate about our enemies. So, in a way, passion is pure life force in itself. And there is this movement to manifestate good. I don't think really a passion directly to hurt. But I don't know. This I don't know. But passion needs its counterpart. Which is wisdom. Passion without wisdom can be very blind. Very selfish. And the wisdom is not in allowing the passion, but the wisdom is in how to give form to this passion. So I'm bringing this forward because passion is so strong and so important and such a motivator. We can move mountains with passion. We can change the world with passion. But at the same time, we fear often our own passion because sometimes what is coming from it is destructive. Sometimes it is blind. Sometimes we act on passion in a way which is really harming others. But then again, it's also the flare of life, the candle of life inside ourselves. So we shouldn't extinguish this flame. That's not right either. But what we need is to allow the passion and because it's such a strong force, to allow the passion, but not kind of become entangled in it in a way that it takes us into places where we lose our freedom to make a choice. To be able to see that passion is also where forms are born. It is a form, it's not what you are. But we're all born from passion. It can be a bigger passion or a more little passion, but the passion which was there between our parents is part of what we are born from. The passion which is behind the whole act of creation of the universe, that's part of what we are born from. Every form in the end is moving from passion. Passion, in the end, I think, is to do good. It's okay. Or it is what it is. Okay, I want to take over, say that's something. No.
We want to break.
Yeah, break.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question about orgasm?
Yeah.
So, when you were describing that, what if you don't have a partner? I mean, can you achieve everything that you were describing without?
If you don't have a partner, you are your partner. If you don't have a partner, you can take an imaginary partner. But so often when we take an imaginary partner, at least I'm now talking from the male perspective, we take an imaginary partner which is like two-dimensional. We don't really make a feeling connection. The imaginary partner you can have is the universe. It can be the earth. It can be a tree. It can be anything. You understand? And everything. But the feeling connection is very, very important. And it can also be yourself. You can really make, in a very, very beautiful way, love to yourself. So you are your imaginary partner. You understand? It's intimate with yourself. So because of the whole movement in male orgasm, males have more the tendency to kind of, move out to take this imaginary partner. And sometimes this imaginary partner is porn. But then porn is very, very two-dimensional. There is not a feeling connection. But sometimes it's built. Sometimes in males what you see is that they have, a porn star, they follow through the years and they're almost married to it. That's her. So when this is happening in a marriage, it's a little bit disloyal. So there is a feeling connection building up. Is that an answer?
Maybe that'll take practice.
You're absolutely free to practice a lot.
You just walked right into that.
Yes, exactly. You just walked into that.
No orgasm, even with a partner, is dependent on the partner. It's not even dependent on particular stimulations or whatever. It's in its source coming from beyond time and space. Especially the female orgasm. There's a loss of space-time, and then it can just be this which triggers. Everything is possible there, and the partner on the dimensions of the heart is one thing. And then the whole shared integration of the bridging the physical with the three dimensions in a way. It sounds clinical, but what can we do? But it's really not necessary. Sex itself is unconditional. Sexuality is unconditional to any partner. It's unconditional to orgasm. Actually, in a way, in a certain level of refinement, we're having orgasms all the time. We shudder. Which isn't an orgasm, it's not what we know as a sexual orgasm, but this movement is happening. And the allowance of the sensuality of being physically alive, or the bliss of being physically alive, or the ecstasy of being physically alive, is absolutely critical to ourselves and others being physically here. We really cut this off. We really repress the whole dimension of happiness and pleasure, and focus on our pain. How are you? Oh, my leg is hurting. How's the rest of you? It's just a very raw example, but there's really no reason at all why we shouldn't be experiencing in and out bliss, ecstasy, passion, moment by moment. There's one good reason, which is that where there is pain, we have work. There's something to be reunited, there's something to be taken care of, but it doesn't need to become the reality. It's the same as with peace and love. There's a war, so peace is gone. It's gone. We have to make it, we have to fabricate it, we have to bring the conditions, which means that we're treating peace as conditional. Even in the worst war possible, peace is there. We deny ourselves it. And in this we get even more into destruction and into suffering. So we can share an orgasm with a partner, but it's totally not dependent on the partner. That's the true sharing. If it was dependent on them, we would be taking something. It wouldn't be a total giving. It goes away a lot. And of course we're talking about the physical layers, but this is true in every spiritual process also. There's refined bliss, there's refined ecstasy. It's all to do with the movement in and out of form and transformation. And if we don't allow the unconditional bliss and ecstasy which is there in the explosion of a block, or in the touching of a block, or in the movement through form, then why would we do it? It's just suffering. And it's not just suffering. Suffering is a small part. And also, pain, when it's really, really, really allowed, has ecstasy and bliss in it. It becomes one. The ecstasy of pain. When we really allow it, it converges because there's such an authenticity. And it's alive. Stab me in, I know I'm alive.
And again, this you cannot take for all pains, because all pains, sometimes pain is holding on to such a long extent that really the nerve system, the physical, cannot contain it anymore. It becomes too much. And then there is absolutely no pleasure in pain anymore. There is pleasure in the relief of pain. Also, that's there. But it is when you look on the whole level of sexuality, there is this with kind of repressing sexuality as we do right now in our society, like it's something which is not okay. We throw away also a lot of things which go together with its sensuality, unity, openness on the whole level of the pelvic, which again is also meeting each other in a certain level. It's like the whole basis is repressed and is not allowed to be there. And with a lot of fear around it. But this is a little bit a pity. But that's what it is right now. So it's a very, very vulnerable subject, and a very difficult subject in a way to talk about. Because immediately when you talk about it, it brings also feelings forward as unsafe, vulnerable, dangerous. It's much more easy to talk about sneezing, because we don't have so much judgment around sneezing. But it's important to realize by repressing it, we repress more as only our own sexuality. We repress part of the physical expression of ourselves, part of our how we are able to connect to ourselves physically. And when you look to what feels erotic, the touch, it's so close to bliss and ecstasy. Being touched, to surrender to that, to kind of really enjoy the physical to the depth. And this is absolutely allowed. I think also necessary to kind of appreciate life and physicality to the depth. Just to feel how your feet are touching the ground. The good old earth, and how the good old earth is responding towards this in togetherness and support.